and it certainly fits in those because there is no requirement to have any sort of pilot or special exemptions for the park itself. There is one thing the board will have to look at and determine whether or not it fits in there. That's up to the board to determine. So I did want to address those questions, Dennis. It's not that we are not looking at things different ways. We've had actually, in terms of looking at things over the past year and a half, we've had a lot of activity at the park. Mostly in the properties down by Equistock for specific reasons. There were solar companies that wanted to come in. Unfortunately, in that area of the woods, I shouldn't say the woods, that area of Queensbury, Kingsbury, there is no capacity for any substation to take any additional power in. So those two companies dropped by the way for that reason. Ricky wanted to buy a piece of property. It was all the way up and back, that huge, massive piece of property that's gotten, that was, as the Corps of Engineers said, you shouldn't have that property logged because it actually made it more wet, a lot wetter in terms of that. So we are looking at that. We've actually decided that in order for us to develop that piece of property would be ungodly expensive because of the wetlands, and we have very little usable part of that property back there. We are still looking at other lots. We had the delineation done for the other pieces of the property from the one just behind Equistock all the way in. So hopefully the delineation is done. We're still waiting for it to be mapped so we know what other properties we have there. There's the two on Casey also. We're not sure what the wetlands is on that. So for those who don't understand, delineation is wetlands. They figure out where the wetlands go. So we're looking at that. Hopefully we'll get that back in a certain time. But I did want to address those issues, Dennis, because I think we all didn't have all the information what Noel was trying to do. And he has expressed interest in talking directly. So if it's permissible, I'll give him your name and phone number to talk to. I think he is he's looking at initially adding 3 jobs. In terms of that, when he develops down the future, however many range it goes, it looks like another 3 or 4 jobs after that. But that's going to be based on development, just like everyone else is. So, Dennis, I didn't ignore you last time. Yeah. I just want to make sure I had all the information before I discussed it. I was intending to call you this week to talk to you. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate the interest. So, did you have any questions from that? No. Okay. Thank you.
Before you go any further, Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Just a point of information. Well, for all those of us out in the hinterlands, we call our roll, but we are not privy to anybody else who might be there in the audience. I wish you would let us know if we do have people in the audience and if you know who they are.
Sorry. We got Dennis Kelly, who did a great job in doing the brush hogging down at the park. We have Alan Ouellette, the county treasurer. Les Losa, our CFO. Mike Grassel, who is his first meeting here tonight. Welcome aboard. I'm sure you saw him in the paper.
Welcome.
We'll see you after tonight if he wants to stick around. Dan Bruno, and we have Ginny Sullivan. Of course, Kara's here with us. And unfortunately, you get to see me. Okay. So, we took care of the payables. Park business recapture update. I don't think we have much, do we?
Nothing new.
Okay. Next was the parcels containing the road acquisition update. This is just a little more complicated. Based on our discussions, WCC has committed to transferring the 3 pieces of property in January. That will finish up the road, that will start the road and keep the road from 196 all the way into the park. So they can look at having durable access to the dewatering facility. That's in process. Kara's working on some paperwork, which we will talk about a little bit later in executive session, since negotiation contracts. I like to have that in attorney-client privilege because we want to negotiate in the public. The second thing is that one of the things we had done was we already got the grant for the bridge, a portion of the bridge. That bridge is, we got MBRC grant for $600,000 to help reconstruct the bridge. The total estimated cost of the bridge is $1.1 million. That's just a rough estimate we've gotten from them. So we are looking at applying for a second one with this Economic Development Agency. That grant will also be for $600,000. And then we will find the balance of funding at $300,000, which is $1.5 million, because there's two things we want to do. The first is we want to get the durable access and get the road converted over, or get the bridge converted over to new structure. Even though that bridge is, right now is in good shape, to have a permanent structure that benefits the park and everyone else. The second part of it is there's a need for about $400,000 to do a septic study for that. There is no sewer into that park. It'd be beneficial if we have sewer coming in that park to help expand that park. And basically what we'll have down there is about 89 acres in the dewatering facility itself, and another potential 300 acres owned by WCC, which could also be used for expansion and development down there. So we'll see what happens. As we all know, there's still a mortgage, a real property tax lien on that property. We have 3 interested parties in that park to take parts of that parcel down there. One wants to take the small building and 5 acres. Another wants to take, there's a 7-acre parcel where they want to build their own building down there. So that just came up recently. We're talking to them. We have a third party who is potentially interested in buying the whole property. So those 3 things are going on. So hopefully when we get the clearance of the clearance of this tax, and we sell at least one of these pieces of property to clear the tax owed on that, we'll have a good path towards having a good place to develop more and more companies coming in. Surprisingly enough, there's been a lot of companies coming in. Where we get a lot of our leads is actually through a number of different sources. Is first of all through economic ESD, Economic Service Development in New York State, Economic State Development, who provides a lot of our leads because they've got all our properties listed. We get a lot of leads from them. We get a lot of leads from Saratoga Economic Development Corporation. We get a lot of leads through economic or EDC in Warren County. We get leads from Glens Falls IDA plus other places. So there are a lot of leads coming in. What we're finding is that as close as that is to the Northway, there's still people want to be closer to the Northway, and that's why we saw economic development take off in Nexus 16. So maybe someday someone can find a piece of property that is closer to the park and to attract more companies, especially with Global Foundries starting to expand. But a lot of them want some feedback we're getting from people. So with the bridge, we're in the process of putting together the EDA grant. One of the things we recently found out they're looking for is what's called a pre-engineering that goes with EDA or goes to EDA, and that provides them the information they need to determine whether or not we'll get the grant for the $600,000, and we are still looking at different ways to get the other $300,000. So without going for the grant without the study, I would need authority from the board in order to put together an RFP to do the pre-engineering report. I'm not sure what it costs. I have some people looking at it, but we'll have to solicit 3 quotes to find out what the price of that is. But we need to move forward with that to get that done. So I'd entertain a motion allowing us to get that done. So I'd entertain a motion allowing us to go ahead and do pre-engineering. That's why I thought about you the other day in the meeting. Bridge, right? Yep. So looking for it. So of course, when we get the quotes in, we'll have to come back to the board to authorize what we do before we do it. So we got a motion from Dan Bruno, seconded by Mike Grasso. And for some reason, I want to call you Bill Grasso, and I don't know why. Mike Grasso. It's my old brain here today. Any other questions or observations? All in favor?
Craig had one.
Oh, Craig, sorry, I can't see the screen.
No, that's okay. Who's pulling together the RFP to send out?
RFP to send out is Beth up at the Regional Planning Board with assistance from
Perfect.
Laura Oswald, and Dan, if he has any input, we'll ask him to review it too, since he used to be a bridge engineer. He should remember some of it. Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Yes. Another question?
I think it was a late eye.
Okay, late eye. Okay, the other one is a grant. I sent out the other day, we received the USDA grant that we applied for in April when conditions were different. And the purpose of that grant was up to $125,000 in order to do a study on the dewatering facility to see how best to market that. I did send out the award that was given. I have to execute some paperwork to accept that grant. This doesn't mean that we're going to do this, and I'll explain the reasons in a minute. Is that there is a $25,000 match on the IDA's part to do it. And what had happened was we applied for this when WL Plastics was going to come in, and we were looking to develop an entire park. And by that time, the taxes would have been paid off. We could plan where we're going from there, plan how we're going to accomplish that. We really wanted to get a good marketing plan and to do that. As everyone knows, things have changed dramatically with COVID and with WL pulling out. So the situation is a little bit murkier, but we have until March in order to determine whether they want to take the grant and use the grant or not. We'll probably go out and put it out for bid and see what we get in responses. But we still couldn't accept it and do it without the board approval. Because if these two facilities buy the property, the taxes get paid off, we're back in the same situation where the park would be wide open for development, and we'd actually have more land to develop than we would with WL Plastics, because between the two companies we're looking at, they're only looking at 11 acres. If one takes the whole park, that's a different story. But it would still put in a situation having a lot more available developable land to do. So at that time, we should know more. But I'd like to be able to go ahead and accept this grant, and then do the RFPs. And if sometime in February or March we have to do the final decision, we can pull out of it then. But I think it's a good recommendation because these two companies, at least two of the companies, look very good about purchasing, and we'll know more. But we've walked the site with them 3 or 4 times already and gone down and answered a lot of questions. One company has already had their engineer come in and look at the property, and it says the small building is perfect for what they want to do, and it would take a lot less than building a building. The other one wants to build a new building. They will actually be, how can I say this? They'll actually be complementary to the other business coming in. One would sort of feed off the other, but it looks good. So I'd like permission to be able to submit that grant as we're going to accept it. And again, this isn't the final determination, but if we don't do it now, we turn it down now, we won't have that ability to use it.
So
Mike Grasso moves it. Do I have a second? Dan,
I'll second.
and Nick, do I have any questions, comments?
I have one.
Yes, Jenny.
What was the purpose of the grant from USDA?
USDA grant was to help us market the property correctly, tell us what the best uses are, approach, and where to do things. So I hope that better describes it.
Thank you.
So you live with this stuff so long, you forget what other people hear. So we'll see. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item was sales and marketing. We had a nice sales and marketing meeting the other day. It was very, very productive. Jenny, Dan Bruno, Mike, myself, Nick Caimano were there. We've had a very productive discussion. We have ways to go forward, and Nick has volunteered to do some other work, so he's going to start contacting some people who have leads for other areas. And I think that we'll have more and more of those meetings. And Dan, you were the chair. Would you like to fill us in?
Yeah, excuse me, I think Mike Grasso and Jenny agreed to talk to the bank. Well, let me back up. We're gonna take white paper and possibly streamline it a little. I think that was my understanding. And distribute that to people we think might be interested as we talk to them and try to promote the IDA, bankers and other people. I talked with Jim Ziplon from the Warren County EDC on Thursday, and he's willing to meet with us at any time to talk about some collaboration and that sort of thing. I think that's a good way to go. So we're going to look into Warren County to see if possibly we can get some brochures. If Nick brought that out. See if they can do some printing for us and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Greg, what do you think about that, Greg? You're on mute, but do you think the print shop over there would be open to doing some printing for us? Hard to say. I really don't know their full scale of operations now at the print shop. Well, can somebody find that out?
That's what I said. I'll talk to them.
Dan's going to check out.
Say that. Okay, thanks, Dan. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No.
These wonderful dividers sort of block the sound a little bit, so sorry.
So I will, this week, I'll check with the county and see if possibly they can help us out. Yes.
Okay, so I've agreed to help Dan, and Ginny and I have been, one of our ideas was to educate people who would be bringing loans and asking for pilots and, you know, be interested in having their mortgage tax abated. And so that would be lawyers with their clients, CPAs, bankers. And so Ginny already has the commercial bankers list done. Kara got me the lawyers in Warren County. I'm checking on Washington County. So what we want to do is get the white paper along with that brochure that Dan mentioned, and either have educational seminars for groups of people that are interested, or maybe even do mailings at first. So that's what we're doing from a marketing effort. And then the other ideas we had is when we see projects and when we hear of projects happening, to maybe get white papers to those people. As a matter of fact, Birch Bottle is moving into 428 Corinth Road. They're bringing a manufacturing of bottles that they're currently doing in Waterford up here. And I think it's like 70,000 square feet. So I reached out to their CEO, George, and he was very interested, and I emailed him your white paper already. So, and I've also contacted the Lucius to see what's going on that corner across from Town Hall. So I think that's also an outreach from members of the board if they hear of any projects, or hear of things going on, to reach out to them to see if we can be of assistance.
Right. That just interject.
Hey, Mike?
Yeah?
Mike Grasso, did I hear you say you talked to Mike Party?
No.
No, not that company.
Okay,
It's
that's why I wondered.
it's Birch Bottling, if my name is, was moving in.
Okay, good, thank you. Thank you. I have another question. I assume Dave, I don't know, who's somebody I'm talking, anyway, is this part of the white paper that you just sent us? This is what we just got in the mail this week.
Okay,
This-
I typed up a sheet, that's not the sheet I typed up. That is our tax abatement policy. In detail, I thought.
No, this is a mission statement of, it's a
Oh,
mission
at the top I put the
statement.
mission, yes, on the top I put the mission statement, yes.
Okay, I have a question about that, why we keep answering these questions from the press and from other people. In the very beginning of the mission statement of Warren, Washington, and IDA, here are two things that stand out. It talks about the counties of Warren, Washington, IDA, Public Benefit Corporation, and it does this, that, and the other thing. In order to advance the job opportunities, keep that in mind. We keep going down further in that paragraph, and it says the agency's primary role is to provide financial assistance and incentives to the business community in order to maximize private capital investment in the economy of Warren and Washington, and to develop opportunities for job creation and job retention. I find it interesting that we keep getting gigs in the paper and by others, that you got, anything we bring up, they have to automatically have 5,246 employees. That's not the case. Is that, am I right there, Dave?
You are correct. As a matter of fact, if you look at our tax statement policy and the fine, I won't say the fine print, the italic print below, there are two areas where we have the ability to, actually it's not, according to the attorney, we have the opportunity to, is that in opportunity zones and former empire zones, because they're considered depressed areas, there is no requirement to have jobs created. We can waive that in terms of that, and there is some discussion whether or not it's waivable or not, or automatic. And Carol, I'll let you speak to that.
As far as the policy goes?
Opportunity zones, and yes.
Yeah, so there's nothing in general municipal law that speaks to this issue in particular, but your policy has indicated that you're able to waive in those locations.
Mm-hmm.
If the job count isn't otherwise identified in the policy. I don't have it with me, so I don't know what the actual
that's right.
numbers, but.
That's right. But if you look at it, is that entire town of Fort Edward is two things. It's both an opportunity zone and it's a former empire zone. Hudson Falls is a former empire zone. There's an empire zone over in Cary Industrial, over on Cary Road. There's a couple opportunities, one or two opportunity zones in Warren County. There's a couple opportunities, one or two opportunity zones in Warren County. I believe they're up by you, Craig, somewhere. I don't know if it's Chester or Stony Creek.
They're in Johnsburg.
Johnsburg, thank you. There are 3 or 4 other former empire zones around Warren County. I know there's also one former empire zone in Hampton. There's a former empire zone in Greenwich. And surprisingly enough, the whole industrial park is a former empire zone on both sides of the road. So those are some things we look at. And thanks for your question, Nick, but that's an important piece.
I think that, Mr. Chairman, that, and Dan Bruno, when we put things together in writing, we shouldn't backtrack and make jumps, but we should let the people know the other part of what we do. And I really don't want to see us geek all the time about it. There's no jobs in that thing. I think that's wrong.
In terms of where it really does kick in, a lot of places is in pilots. Pilots is almost directly tied to jobs, except for in those distressed areas.
Right.
Did I say that correctly? Thank you. So,
Thank you.
Dan, you were going to talk.
I was just going to mention that part of the idea with educating the bankers and the lenders is to have them include, if they get prospective borrowers, clients, what have you, that want to do something commercial, industrial, that sort of thing, that they would include the IDA and say the white paper and that sort of thing. That's the idea with that, early in the process.
Good.
Yes, early in the initial stage of the process.
I think that the other thing we sometimes don't acknowledge enough is that our job is not just to bring in new companies. Our job is to help expanding companies or companies who need assistance in moving forward through expansions or through bringing new product lines in or whatever like that. But we need to be able to make sure we help our companies stay. For example, Green Tissue has had a couple pilots, and one I know it's over next year, was a 15-year enhanced pilot. Price Chopper Mark 32 had an enhanced pilot also. So we help people come in, but we've also done a lot of assistance to other companies who wouldn't have been able to do things otherwise. So I think it's important. It's not just new companies, it's all companies we should be addressing and working with and getting a message to. Thank you. Anything else from sales and marketing? Pardon? Okay. But I did send the tax abatement policy out with that because I think everyone should read and understand that. It's a little more complex than what we think it is. So, good. New business. Let me just check it. New business, yes.
Okay, so as everyone probably is aware, I'm the one that does updates on the WWID. It's everybody's information, their position on the board, and any accomplishments that they want to share with the public. I wanted to throw it out there to see if I could also insert a headshot next to your name and your information. I thought it would be more personable. If anyone's opposed to it, of course we can nix the idea, but does anybody have any opinions?
I think it's a great idea, but it has to be, the only ones in there are those of us over 80.
Good, I don't qualify yet.
Well, that's just the thing. It's either all or nothing. I think it would be disorganized and kind of ununified if there were just a few here and there. So and the picture can be anything, take your significant other and do some selfies, and any shot that you don't mind sharing, send them to me and I'll incorporate them into the website if you guys decide to do that.
Great idea.
Okay, any objections?
Let's take it off the Zoom call.
Okay.
These aren't the most flattering.
Send a photo to you.
Yes, through email, just an attachment, and I'll take care of it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business? Any come before the board? Okay, I'll look for a motion to adjourn the IDA meeting. Yes. Yes, Mike.
As part of my role with Warren County and the Economic Recovery Task Force, I've met with Jim Stipline on many, many, many occasions. He has many leads, people from downstate wanting to relocate their business. Dave, have you had a chance to meet with Jim?
I have not, I should, and I think I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to say something. I think about a year ago, we had about a meeting about working together a little closer, and we haven't gotten there yet, but I think with Jim coming on board, I think it's time that we set up a meeting and talk about how we all can work better to bring economic development into Washington, Warren County. I mean, we're joined at the hip, guys. I think there's some things we should explore. As a matter of fact, they've got to mention, we did talk about that in sales and marketing and how we get that and how we get more leads and how we get in there. So I think we need to do that.
It's just, the EDC's role is to be able to present to the outside world basically what is in our area, right? And just very open to collaborate. As a matter of fact, I wish Mr. Biddle was on the line. I'm not sure if he's here or not. But there's a move abroad to try to look at finding a way to leverage back office synergy within some of our local organizations. So that's just another thing to help control some of our costs, but also just kind of leverage the limited resources we have to make a bigger impact. So if you'd like, Dave, I mentioned it to Jim, but if you guys can connect, the sooner the better.
Okay, I would love to do that.
Let me remind you,
It hasn't been,
I did talk to you Thursday for about 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay,
And I said, I just have to call him whenever we want to meet,
okay,
more than willing.
good. I'll let you have some time. I'll give you some time so we can sit down and talk. Okay? Good. Thank you for that, Mike. I meant to say that earlier, but my old mind goes sometimes.
You're welcome. I'm with you.
So, look for a motion to adjourn the IDA meeting. Motion by Mike. Do I have a second?
second,
Nick, all in favor?
yes.
I would like to call the CDC meeting to order. And I think the first item of business is to talk about the, we still have the same attendee, so that's okay. First item of business is accept the minutes of the meeting as mailed. Do I have a motion on that, please? Motion by Dan, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Craig. All in favor? Carried. I think the only thing we have on our agenda is
The $100
to pay
payable.
our payables, $100 for McCarthy and Conlon bookkeeping. The motion to pay the $100. Motion by Mike, second by Dan, Jenny. All in favor? Carried. I will take a motion to, after this meeting, we'll have an attorney-client privilege meeting, talk about a couple of contractual issues with companies. So with that in mind, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the CDC meeting.
Yeah, before we do, if I must say, I'm sorry not to be in the room there with the newest member, Mr. Brasso, but definitely welcome. Good to have you. Thank you. Yeah, what's the bottle of champagne, Mike? New members behind.
Thanks for coming. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So,
Because YouTube goes away, right?
yes.
Should we re-adjourn?